Okay, this amendment is seeking for the Minister to produce a report on the degree to which the new 15% corporate tax rate that has been established as a result of the OECD BEPS process, and which government, I think, fairly reluctantly signed up to increase the nominal rate of corporation tax, whether that will be an actual effective rate of 15%. And the reason for that, the Minister is very familiar with the reasoning behind this kind of amendment on our part, is because we don't believe that the 12.5% rate, which was already one of the lowest in the Western world, was ever paid in this country, or anything even close to it, because the corporations exploit the array of allowances, reliefs and deductions which allow them to write down their taxable profits to negligible levels. So while apparently they're paying, I think the latest figure you've put out at the committee discussions on this was that they were paying just under 11% effective rate, I think you said. That calculation can only hold water on the basis of the profits that are deemed taxable, but of course the problem is that there are far bigger profits that, through the use of allowances and deductions and reliefs, they manage to not be taxed, deemed not taxable. So the figures I always find pretty remarkable, and I'm surprised there isn't more scrutiny of them. Well, obviously, actually, there is quite a bit of scrutiny at an international level by OECD of these things, and it was that prompted the global push for an effective rate, because these incredibly profitable corporations were not paying the nominal rates they were supposed to. And that's why there's been that push for a 15% or more effective rate, and indeed we think it should be more. The average worker is paying about 20% of their income in tax, and we think the corporations should at least pay that level of tax on their profits. But they don't, because of the allowances and reliefs. So the figures are fairly dramatic. Again, the Minister will be familiar with them, but I think it's always important to put them on the record. Last year, 2020, the pre-tax profits of corporations in this country were an absolutely staggering €203,815 million. That was up from 2012, when those profits were €74,775 million. So incredible jump, 172% increase in profits for corporations between 2012 and 2020. Now you just think about the average worker, how much their pay has gone up over that same period. Well, 1 or 2% in real terms. In real terms, arguably workers' pay has gone down when you look at energy price hikes and the cost of living, the cost of accommodation, and so on. But the profits of the corporations absolutely going through the roof. And these figures are rarely remarked upon. You know, you get the occasional headline in the business sections of newspapers or the business section of the RTE website where they allude to the staggering profits, but no real scrutiny of it, and less of the actual tax they paid. So in 2020, €203 billion of profits, up, as I said, 172% since 2012. But how much of that was actually taxed? Well, we don't know for 2020 because the figures lag, but we know that in 2019, when there was €195 billion in profits, only 106 billion of that, about 50%, was taxed. So they wrote down their pre-tax gross profits by 100 billion using a whole series of reliefs and deductions and allowances that are detailed. The figures are detailed by the revenue, and I look at them every year. I find them fascinating. But some of the main headings under which they managed to write down their taxable profits include capital allowances. So capital allowances, and these are characterised or defined by revenue as costs to the exchequer. Right, costs to the exchequer. That's the taxpayer. Capital allowances 2018, 9.4 billion. Intra-group transactions, 12 billion. Cost to the exchequer. Reconstructions and amalgamations, 273 million. Cost to the exchequer. Losses brought forward, 1.8 billion. Group relief, 536 million. And then slightly lesser ones, the research and development tax credit, 335 million. So all of these are just some of the big headings under which those gross profits are written down. And of course, the capital allowances and the intergroup transactions, what that is, of course, is in effect the corporations writing their own tax bill by ascribing values to their own intellectual property, where they charge themselves for the use of their own intellectual property. So one subsidiary of a company charges another subsidiary of the same company whatever cost really it likes on the use of an intellectual property, on a patent effectively, and they can ascribe almost any cost to that they want, and that allows them to write down their taxable profits. And so the real effective rate is not the 11% the Minister will, I've no doubt, claim now in a couple of minutes, but is 5.4% on average, but actually very considerably less for the big IT companies, the big pharmaceutical companies who are responsible for the vast majority of these profits. So we think that matter should be examined, and we need to make sure that they actually pay 15% on their gross profits.